Welcome to the Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 345 of East Central Illinois' favorite podcast. Jeremiah Morrill, executive video producer, audio engineer, guy who is going to physically collapse on Saturday, Mr. Zach Burcham, and my forever co-host, Mr. Dakota Davis. What do we have planned today?
Today's episode features Henry County Coroner Brian Clark, and he's running in the Henry County primary to be the Henry County Coroner. We're going to be talking to Brian about the Office of the Coroner. This is going to be a very educational episode for us and for our listeners, for you guys. We're going to be talking to Brian about all kinds of things, what his typical week looks like, what his caseload is, what exactly he does, who the people that work for him are, and just all kinds of different things about the role, the office itself, and how it's changed and what he thinks the future holds for it. So make sure you stick around until the very end of the show.
This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you, other times we'll make you laugh, but hopefully you'll always learn something new. If you are a member of our Patreon, you will have learned how to actually measure a crowd size, why it's important to have a YouTube account for retro stuff, and what Zach's weekend is going to look like. Is that accurate?
It's pretty accurate.
Is that pretty close to what you learned? If you join?
Yeah, patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty. That's where you can go to support the show on a monetary level. That is how we pay the bills around this place. We're getting ready to get into the warm season, so the air conditioning is going to be bumped up or bumped down, depending on how you look at it, I suppose. But those folks over there, we appreciate them very much. You get access to the show notes before the show starts. You get access to that special bonus edition every single week. If we have special food or drinks or whatever, then we also have our guests also participate in the conversation, but also try those interesting foods. So it's been very fun. We have a lot of fun on the Patreon side, and it's just a lot more loose, free-flowing show than what we typically do. You also get just more access, I guess. This past week, I put a poll or kind of a question out to the Patreon members in the Facebook group and asked them, hey, we're having the coroner on, and this is a new one for us. What kind of questions would you guys like to see? Jeremiah, we also have some candidate series sponsors that we need to talk about.
We do two things. One, we have to say thanks to our $50 and more folks.
Oh yeah,
because I think I failed on that one last week too. I had to do a join in progress.
Can't miss it.
I was
twice.
they would be very angry with us. Anthony Meyer would stop delivering our packages from a different breed.
Yeah.
John Phillips, Andy Moore, Buick GMC sold us our beautiful GMC Terrain. And almost sold me a pickup truck, but he sourced it for me up in Michigan because we couldn't get it built in time.
He sold me my GMC Acadia.
And our friends over at Sports Corner and Varsity Outfitters here in town, they did my Boss Hog embroidery on the PFG, and this morning I dropped off 6 work shirts to have done for the day job.
There you go.
So getting all kinds of embroidery done over there. They do awesome work. So really excited to have them as a part of it. We do have some sponsors, Dakota.
That's right. Weiland's Flowers and Ink and Ale Brew House. Weiland's Flowers, we appreciate them very much. They are the official flower supplier for the Boss Hog of Liberty. They did both of our weddings, so my wedding and Jeremiah's. And they've been around for the candidate series for many years now. We appreciate them for coming through for us every time. We run a tight budget over here, and all that help is very much appreciated. Then we also have brand new this year, Ink and Ale Brew House. They are the new establishment that is going into the old Courier Times building. I guess it's still currently the Courier Times building, but next to the press. We talked to their main chef that's going to be cooking all the food, running the kitchen. We talked to him during the St. Patrick's Day Festival in downtown Newcastle, and
really
it
good.
sounds like it's going to be amazing.
Elevated menu, golf simulator, axe throwing, all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah. Now they did a soft open. I haven't heard when their hard open is.
Imminent. It is imminent.
Be on the lookout for that, and we will announce it here.
Yeah, I think they even saw a post that said they're waiting to announce it.
All right.
All right, let's get to know our guests. We got all the business out of the way, Brian. Now it's just the Brian Clark Show.
That's right.
Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tell us about yourself. You're currently serving as our coroner. A couple years ago, you got caucused into the position.
I was caucused in when previous coroner Stacy Geffey went back to work for the Henry County Jail full time. Prior to that,
What's that say about the coroner's office when it's better to work in the jail than to be the coroner?
Full time versus part time.
Yeah.
So, prior to that, I actually worked for Stacy as a deputy coroner. He got me in the coroner side of work. I've always been in public safety all my life, though. Been an EMT since I was 18 years old, out of high school.
So tell us about yourselves. You're from Hagerstown originally, and then you made your career here in Henry County.
I have, and moved my home here to Henry County in 2015. I work full-time for Newcastle EMS as the EMS chief for Newcastle Henry County EMS. I'm also a reserve police officer in Hagerstown. Been doing that for 15 years. Like to be able to give back to my community, and grew up there and still go over there and work as needed a few days a month.
So what's the EMS side? What have you learned there that overlays back into the coroner role?
Well, a lot of just medical, everything from medical terminology to disease processes, illnesses, trauma. It all helps, the whole life cycle essentially.
Right.
So
you said that you worked for Stacy prior to becoming the coroner. What was your role in the coroner's office under Stacy?
I was a deputy coroner under Stacy.
Okay, so what's that job do versus your job now?
Essentially, just a death investigator. Typically, the coroner takes care of the budgeting, the management side of things, as well as the death investigations. The day-to-day operations of the office, budgeting, paying the bills, scheduling, all that kind of stuff, besides taking cases as well. There's a lot of admin stuff for like signing death certificates. If the coroner signs the death certificates, which happens on most coroner cases, they'll come to me and then go back to the funeral home. And then the deputy coroner typically just works the death scene and then attends the autopsy and then submits that paperwork to me for review, and then on to the next one.
So attends the autopsy. The coroner's office is not performing autopsies.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We attend. We use a traveling forensic pathologist. All the pathologists that work for the company we use out of the Fishers area, they're all board certified forensic pathologists. So they come to our county and perform autopsies for us.
So as needed, they come
as
by.
needed. Correct.
Okay, so how long has the county been doing that? Basically contracting it out. Have we ever had autopsies performed?
Helen Stussy, I don't know a terrible amount of the history on that, but I do know that Helen Stussy used to do autopsies here in the county.
Okay.
She was a pathologist, but for the last several years, they've either went to Muncie, to Ball Hospital, and there's a pathologist that's employed up there that they do, or use traveling pathologists, which is not uncommon. The pathologist I use covers about 40 counties in the state.
Oh, wow.
There's 4 of them.
So
Dang, really?
if a family has to interact with your office, do they receive a bill for services at all, or is it all covered by the county?
They don't. The county covers that. I budget that into my yearly budget, and then that's how those bills are paid.
It's not really typically the family's choice, is it? That like your law enforcement or whoever's is making that call, like we need an autopsy here.
Right, we need to call the
toxicology.
coroner. This is suspicious. The coroner investigates suspicious non-natural deaths. Is when the
Okay.
coroner has to always be notified. There's a couple other caveats as far as should you be admitted to the hospital within 24 hours and die, they're supposed to notify the coroner's office. But as far as
Why is that?
who has
So you go to the hospital and within 24 hours of being admitted, you die, and then is that because it's like automatically suspicious, or
probably just more liability for the hospital. Now,
Oh,
that's not
okay.
to say that we turn that into a coroner's case into an autopsy if it's somebody with a significant medical history that or has a terminal illness, stuff like that.
I was gonna say you got somebody bleeding out, they lost a leg or something. That's not
Right,
pretty
right.
obvious.
So yeah, we do that, and then our budget for that, we have to autopsy anybody in state custody. So anybody that dies at the prison, we have to do a full autopsy on. But we do. The good thing about that is we do get to recoup those costs. The state does pay us, so I invoice the prison and get to put that back in the autopsy line. So
Is that
that's-
same thing? They wanted liability purposes for the state.
They do. A lot of the folks out here at our local prison that died, they have terminal illnesses, cancer, but they still have to have a full autopsy. That way, nobody could say,
There's a full
"Hey,
record.
you're right. Hey, you overdose him," or "Oh, hey, you beat them to death." Even though they had cancer. So
Gotcha. Okay.
So higher level, let's back up a little bit. The coroner's office is responsible for any time that there is a non-natural cause death or a suspicious death.
correct.
Is when it happens. If you die at home but you're under hospice care, then the coroner's not. That's under your doctor's care.
Correct. The doctor then signs a death certificate. Hospice physicians, they have all that stuff in order. And that's not to say if you're at home and die at home that we have to come out every time. If there's conscious or possible dead person, and if everybody's like, oh yeah, this is, so and so, she just died in her sleep, then the EMS folks typically call the coroner's office, call dispatch. Dispatch calls me and it says, hey, you need to call so and so. They're out. They've got a deceased person, and we call, get the scoop, and then go from there.
So how many? Let's tell us about the structure of the office. Like it's you and a handful of deputy coroners and death investigators.
Correct. I have 8 other death investigators that are deputy coroners for the office. Most of them are either EMS, have a background of EMS, law enforcement, or healthcare of some point, of some kind, and then they take cases as needed. We kind of cycle through, so everybody, gets those.
Is it like an on-call situation so that you can? I assume you need to be able to travel and go do your other jobs, et cetera. So you've got to make sure you've got coverage for the community at all times.
Correct. It is. We kind of just pass that around.
Okay. So, do you have to have is there? Let's talk about the job requirements, I guess. To be a death investigator, what are you looking for? Like, how does someone get that job at all?
So a lot of places, the bigger cities, Marion County, Hamilton County, they use full-time death investigators. So they go to the same training that we go to become it's a certified medical legal death investigator. It's about a 40-hour class. You go, they're held twice a year in Indianapolis. You go, sit through that. Then you have to sit through a test, and then you have to do what's called an externship. Go attend an autopsy and work cases, natural, suicide, homicide, and accidental death. And then you turn all that stuff in to the coroner's training board, and then they say, okay, yep, this all meets our requirements, and you are now a certified medical legal death investigator. And then every year we have to have 16 hours continuing education, no less than. That consists of some type of medical and investigative continuing education. So me being a paramedic, I can use some of my medical stuff too. But every year the coroner's training board holds a annual in-service, so we usually attend that as well, because it goes over.
One thing I picked up on was it sounds like the death investigators that are in Henry County, those aren't full-time positions. So
They're not.
are they is it even like a part-time, or are they just kind of they're a sheriff's deputy, but they're also, if you call them, they'll come do their role as a death investigator?
Right. They're
Okay.
paid on call.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if they take a case, they get paid $80 for an investigation.
Okay.
And then $50 if they have to attend an autopsy. So that's just the flat fee that the county
So
has set that's been
how many
budgeted.
death investigators are you allowed to have?
I don't know that there's a max that I know of, but I like to keep it where everybody can still take some cases instead of saying, oh, well, you're going to stay on
Oh,
my
yeah.
roster, but you
Yeah.
haven't had a case in 3 or 4 years.
Right.
You
that
know,
makes sense.
so that's why I try to keep a smaller amount, just to make sure we're always doing a good, thorough job. And
What's the caseload look like? So Henry County, 48,000 people. We've got a prison, so that maybe that adds a little bit more to it. How often does your office, maybe in a week or in a month, normal typical statistics?
so we are at 58 coroner cases for the year. Last year we did 151 cases. Now, got to keep in mind that's not the hospice, the natural, the stuff that's in the hospital. Could be people, somebody's like, oh, well, so-and-so died from Newcastle, but if they die at Ball Hospital, we're not notified. So I always, when I talk to the county council, county commissioners about just the status of the office, you got to remember this is only coroner cases. So we did 151 cases last year, and we're at 58 cases today, year to date. So we're on track for around
2 or 3 a week, essentially.
Right. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 or 4 a day, and then we skip a few days. It's just no rhyme or reason. Everybody
Yeah.
says, "Oh, deaths come in 3." It's fairly truthful if you look at my data,
So tell us about the facility. So you guys, the coroner's office got moved. It's just steps away from our studio here now.
it is
in the old county jail facility.
correct.
I guess the county built a new jail, and then it was like, hell, we got this terrible condemned building that nobody could possibly we couldn't keep prisoners in it. So we're going to make it your office, Brian. How's that building working out? And what's it like?
Okay, so in the coroner's office part of that building, there is a cooler in there that we use for overflow morgue. And then I have some files and stuff in there. I do a lot of stuff from home. I have my computer at home. It's just more convenience for me personally. And then we use the hospital as our main morgue. That's where all the autopsies are done. Autopsies can't be done over here at the jail or the coroner's office. So we do all of our autopsies at the hospital, or potentially at one of the local funeral homes, depending on how many decedents we have. If that's full, then the funeral homes offer up their facilities as backup as well. So I have a good working relationship with all 3 local funeral homes. They always help any way they can. So that helps me and makes my job easier, especially as we work through busy times.
So you don't use the whole jail facility then?
No. I have the old rec room is my office, is the coroner's office. Then Henry County EMS is in the front. And then my understanding is they've got a bunch of county records stored as well in some of the cell blocks. So
Okay. Just lost it. Your job as the actual elected coroner, is that a full-time position? Or are you
It's
still,
not.
Okay.
It's not. My full-time job is EMS chief for Newcastle County EMS.
Okay. All right.
And
Gotcha.
Then the coroner's job is part-time.
Oh, that
So-
sounds like a lot. How many hours a week are you putting in as a coroner?
It varies. You know, I would say 20 to 30. You know, it just, like
That's
I said, it
not-
could be
that's a
20
lot.
some weeks, you know, or more. So,
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot. It seems like you have a lot of responsibility for it to not be considered a full-time position.
I wouldn't disagree. And a lot of counties smaller than us are in the same boat. You know, they have, you know, the coroners are part-time and they have other full-time jobs. A lot of places you'll see funeral directors as the coroner, physicians as the coroner, you know, or you don't have to have any medical or law enforcement
be
background
anybody.
to be the coroner. You know, Dakota, you could run for coroner.
All right.
And
It's like
go
sheriff.
correct and go to the school. You have a year within the time of being elected.
Judge and prosecutor are the
Two.
only two jobs, elected positions in the county that you have to have credentials for, I
Yeah.
believe. So after
So-
within a year of getting elected, he needs to go to school.
Yeah. Yep. you'd So it's around $143,000 a year. When I took office, I worked with the auditor's office. Those ladies have helped me an immense amount up there because our biggest cost as a coroner's office is autopsies. So my autopsy line has $100,000 in it, and we'll use $100,000. I had to get an additional appropriation last year. It wasn't as robust last year, so autopsies have to be done. The council has to pay that bill.
It's non-negotiable.
So it's non-negotiable.
By law,
so
I assume certain conditions will trigger it, and you have to do it.
correct. So we worked with the council and the auditor's office and said, you know, we need a more accurate number and a real number because we got to pay it no matter what. We could put $2 in it, but if it's $100,000, we got to pay $100,000. So we were able to do that. And then the coroner's salary is just over $18,000. And then I have a $10,000 utility budget. And then I have a $5,000 deputy coroner budget, which isn't a lot, you know, to be able to use those folks. So I take a lot of cases myself, which is part of it, and I'm glad to do it. And then the remaining is toxicology fees, disaster supplies, body bags, rubber gloves, Tyvek suits, things like that, and then fuel. County EMS actually makes most of my body transports for me. I was able to work with them, and then if not, then we use one of their ambulances to go and transport the decedent as we need to if they're busy or on calls. You know, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So with those folks already working, I'm just trying to make the best out of all the county resources.
I know. I was working a job, my day job, on some side street in the middle of the city of Newcastle, and you know, all of a sudden we got a Newcastle City Police car rolls up to a house, and then there's a fire truck and an ambulance, and we're all kind of, you know, we're rubbernecking, looking down
Sure.
the street, seeing what's going on, and I saw the Ford Expedition roll up as well, and I was like, ooh, this isn't good, boys. We should probably just walk the other way at this point. This is not something we want to be rubbernecking on, be caught looking at. So, yeah, you see that Expedition roll up, it's not good.
Right. Talk a little bit about my caseload too. You asked earlier. Last year, if I can remember close, we had 23 accidental deaths, 2 murders or homicides, 119-ish natural deaths, 1 death labeled undetermined, and 6 suicide deaths for 2023.
Undetermined. How does that happen? Like you die in your sleep and they don't know why, or is
No.
it like
This
like
was
SIDS cases? Are we talking
correct.
about for
Yeah.
infants? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that this was a minor that the case was listed as undetermined.
Gotcha. So that's interesting.
Now, our overdoses, which is something that I really am trying to be more involved with local organizations, health department. I'm real excited about this Hagar's Hope right here behind you guys.
Mhm.
I see been watching some of that. Overdose deaths are labeled accidents because they're accidental overdoses because you can't prove otherwise. So we had 14 of those last year in Henry County, Indiana, and that's a lot. We've had 4 this year, and I still have toxicology pending. So we're at 4 cases this year, which is still a lot for Henry County, Indiana.
Toxicology pending, meaning if you have a suspected overdose, it takes a while to get lab results.
It does. Sometimes up to 6 weeks. It's usually
Oh.
not that much, but I always tell people 4 to 6 weeks. That way I'm not telling them 2 or 3 weeks and having to call and say, hey, guess what? It's going to be another week. So we use Access Labs in Indianapolis. The nice thing about that is they're the state partnered lab, so I can get most of my toxicology done for free because I use them for
Meaning the state's
state
responsible
pays.
for it, or they're paying for it.
Right. So that's a great cost savings to the county. We were able to use that. So
What are you seeing overdose deaths on? Is it mainly like fentanyl here, or
it is a lot
other
of
stuff?
fentanyl, and then we have seen the bromazepam and xylazine, both which are sedatives and horse tranquilizers. We have seen that here in Henry County, unfortunately.
Has that been increasing recently, or is it kind of staying steady since the
Kind of staying steady, I would say,
like
because
10 years or so, probably?
Well, I don't have a lot of data from that far back on just overdose deaths. That's something that I've been trying to track since I took over last year of the specific overdose deaths, because that helps the health department with a lot of grants, and then the state reporting numbers. But a lot of bad drugs, and these folks don't know it. So it's a lot of education, I feel like. So, like I said, I've been trying to
And do you
talk
know
to
like
more people.
the overdose tests, like when we're talking about fentanyl and things, we hear a lot about it being pushed into other drugs. So a lot of those are like somebody thought that they were going to be taking barbiturate, but what they got was an opiate. Do we see that more here, or is it more intentional?
No,
use?
it's I think it's just they don't know what they're getting. They think they're getting straight heroin. They're getting heroin with fentanyl, or heroin with fentanyl and bromazepam and all this synthetic fentanyl and stuff in it, and they don't know, or think they're getting meth, just plain meth, but they're getting meth laced with all this other stuff that's coming in from other countries, and they, I might buy my drugs from you every day, but
Your supplier changed, something happened, you don't know.
Right.
So, okay, and with the opiates, so with fentanyl, Narcan obviously has been a huge help and a life-saving tool for emergency medical responders. But is there anything that they can do with the tranquilizers? I don't think
Nothing
okay.
Nothing unless you can secure their airway and breathe for them. Like if somebody's standing right here and you take that and they call 911 early as soon as they see you, then yes,
because it
But what
paralyzes
people-
the
just knocks your
diaphragm, right?
nervous system out and takes your ability to breathe and support your own airway away, and then you just die.
Gotcha.
So that's the big thing is Narcan works on opiates only,
Mhm.
and we're seeing a lot of other things as well.
Dakota, when you put the notes together, you mentioned that in the city election last year, we had a lot of conversation about suicides, and you said there were 6 last year in 2023.
Yeah, I think there was either 5 or 6. I think it was 6 suicides. They were all adult cases.
It's some of this data. It's always it's impolite or it's not reported, right? You never
Sure.
You never say what happened. So if you aggregate it, I think it gives us a better picture of a community as to how big this issue is or isn't.
Right. There were 6, so community of 48,000. You know, I don't know where we rank per capita in the state of Indiana. I know there was discussion about childhood suicide, and we had none of that last year. This year, I think we've had 2 suicides, and it's May 1st, so
Is the jail responsible, or jail or prison responsible for any of those? Or is it
no.
general population of
Nope,
just
I had to
folks?
think about that. Yep, just
Yeah.
general citizens.
That's a good question.
You know, ranging from 20s up into their 80s. So, and that's the suicides, same thing, you know, 20s up to early 70s. I've had overdose deaths last year and this year.
Gotcha. So it's a across all age groups, and
It
I'm
is.
sure genders. It affects everybody.
Yeah, our family has been affected by the military suicide side. It's very, very real.
Sure.
So one of the questions that one of our patrons had asked, Andrew Bowman asked us about, and you kind of touched on it earlier. Some folks come from the funeral home background, some come from the medical background, some from the EMS background. What is the typical county coroner? Where do they come from? I know we've had a little of each in Henry County over the years.
Right. We've had funeral directors and paramedics and police officers, and it's all that. It could be anybody, you know, as long as you go and become a certified medical legal death investigator. There's actually some physicians. Some counties have a physician as the county coroner as well. You know, so you could have a doctor in here. So
How much of a difference do you think it makes to have a?
I don't know that it makes a terrible lot of difference. One of my deputy coroners, she has some healthcare experience, but when I took over for Stacy, she was like, you know, I'm really interested in this. Sent her to school, and she's really did well. She really does a great job, very thorough. You know, I think it's all about the training you receive and the passion for the job. You know, all these people are here to serve their communities. You know, that's why we do the job we do.
You said that you had 2 murders, or you had 2 murders last year. We're paying, not throwing rocks, just understanding. We're paying $80 to somebody to investigate a murder for the coroner's office, and then $50 more if they show up at the autopsy, and that's the extent of what we're doing.
$30.
That from the death investigation side, yes, my folks are making $130. Now, obviously, the police department and sheriff's department, state police, they do the criminal investigation. You know, we just do the death investigation. You know, essentially pronounce them, yep, they're dead. Have we notified the next of kin? You know, their personal belongings on the body. Then take them into our care, do the autopsy, and then release them ultimately to a funeral home.
So does that fall on you to notify their family?
It does. That's the job of the coroner.
How do you know? Like that's there's got to be some detective work of your own to work that out sometimes.
We were asked, maybe from the Republican Club, one of the biggest challenges. That's the biggest challenge for my office is sometimes notifying next of kin. You know, especially with those people from out of town. So we have to rely on calling
Somebody's
other
on I-70.
agencies. Somebody's on I-70. A trucker pulls over down to Flying J and has a heart attack. You know, then we get called because the trucking company hasn't seen the truck move in 10 hours, and they know he's only supposed to have 8 hours maybe of downtime. So then we have to rely on the law enforcement. They help us. A lot of times we will just I'll call, their hometown if their driver's license is right. And then then we have to call the trucking company or their employer and try to get emergency contacts. So yeah, there's a lot of detective work goes into that. And that's really our biggest challenge, I would say, is sometimes finding that. Or you get some people that live alone, that don't have any family left. Then we have to find that family to make that decision, make that notification, and then
Because you don't, until you have that family member, you can't send a body to a nursing home. Good Lord, to a funeral home.
Right.
They're with you.
They're with us, and then we take possession of them until we try to find that. Worst case, we have to, some places, knock on wood, I haven't had to, but we'll have to rely on social media. You get, like I said, the random person that has no family that dies, that you can't find anything. You have to put it on the news and social media. I'm sure you've seen ads before that the Marion County Coroner's Office seems like every week is needing the public's help trying to find somebody's family. So
yeah, there was a gentleman that was found deceased in Knightstown a few years ago. I think I remember there being like a big thing because they couldn't identify even like who he was.
right.
So what do you guys do in that case if there's no identification on the body or anything?
So there's DNA. They can do DNA. There's places over in Hamilton County, Marion County. They have a lot more resources, obviously, than we do over here in Henry County. So we rely on those folks that have. There is like forensic dentists that can go in with dental records and figure out who these people are. But Hamilton County, they have a lot of resources with DNA and identification.
So you can reach out to a
So we
colleague
would
over there
reach
and
out
they'll
to
take
them.
care of you.
Yeah.
Tell me about if a family. Do you ever run into a situation where a family says, I'm not doing this? They just refuse to take possession or to deal with, and you get into like a pauper situation?
We have, and some people can't afford it, and then it falls on the township trustee because we are a county less than 400,000. So it falls to the township trustee,
So
and
if
then we have
somebody
to work
lived in
with
Bluentsville, died, Stony Creek Township trustee is going to be the one that resolves it.
Right.
And is that because does that fall under poor relief then?
Yeah, I would say probably under poor relief, or I don't know if they have most of them have like a funeral fund or burial expense line. And
Zach,
then they'll only pay for like cremation.
I had no idea about that one.
I didn't either.
So
I don't know
and
why I
then-
need life insurance now.
well, but what happens is you go down as unclaimed. I mean, surely somebody will
Yeah.
claim you, won't they?
Yeah, maybe.
Now it's this is a part of Dakota's new financial plan.
Yeah.
East Spiceland Township's problem.
So
It's funny. So that's interesting. So is that at that point, does that person, the headstone, funeral, everything?
a lot of times it's just a direct cremation is
Okay.
what the township trustee will pay. There won't be a funeral or a
No
headstone
resting
or a
place,
funeral
anything.
or a casket, because the most economical portion of a funeral is a cremation.
Mhm.
So most of the time that's what the township trustees do, and sometimes they have to even take the cremains. If really nobody knows these people or want to claim these people, and they go down as truly unclaimed, then the cremains go to the township trustee, and a lot of them they'll bury them in the local cemetery.
A lot of times the trustee is responsible for a local cemetery, so that's where
Right.
they end up going.
So,
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's really interesting. I never knew that.
So what you've been 2 years on the job.
I have.
have you made any major changes to the office or noticed any modernizations that you've been able to bring in?
I think the biggest thing is being able to work with Henry County EMS on helping transport, because that to me is a cost savings to the coroner's office, because if not, then you have to have 2 people go to make a removal with the equipment that we had to do that. Then trying to be more proactive in the public with overdose awareness. That's like I said earlier, that's a big thing with me. Like to utilize the state lab, saves us all money, and we use online reporting through the state reporting system, which makes us eligible for grants. So we were able to get last year, we were able to get some tablets to do our reports on. Every case has a report, and a camera and useful things. You know, it's not just like some grants, oh, well, we're going to give free money away, but this stuff's not useful. The state does give us useful things, and it's a whole list. We get a pick. They figure it on X number of dollars for your county size, essentially.
So the reporting that you have, are they? I assume it's not like Beacon where you can just jump online and look something up. They've got to do a death certificate request from your office or some.
We do it's by state statute. There's only certain things that can be released. You know, cause, manner, age, location, things like that. Autopsy reports are released only to next of kin. You know, you can't just call up and say, "Oh, hey, I want an autopsy report from my neighbor." You know, because I think something sketch happened. That those are requested typically in writing, and then we facilitate those requests. But then the death certificates are actually done. I do the death certificates. A lot of the county coroners, some of them have the deputy coroners do it. A lot of the county coroners themselves take care of it. That's done in a separate state system, and then goes to the health department, and then that's how death certificates are issued.
They maintain the
to the
birth
family.
and the death certificates for the county.
Right.
What do you do if someone requests a autopsy?
We have to make the decision whether it's something suspicious or non-natural. If it's not, then we refer them for a private autopsy.
Okay, and
And
then
then
they have to pay for it.
They have to pay for that out of pocket.
How much does an autopsy cost?
The rate for me as the coroner for a coroner case is $2,200.
Okay.
The rate for a private autopsy typically is $4,000 to $5,000.
Wow. Huh. How long does an autopsy take?
Just depends on the case. Usually at least an hour, sometimes longer, depending on the type of case.
That's good work if you can get it then. $2,200 an hour.
Usually there's 3. Usually the pathologist has a autopsy assistant, and then usually a scribe. So
There's travel involved too. They come to you, Dakota.
they do
40
And
counties.
it's
40
convenient.
counties. Yeah.
I'm assuming there's also
So-
like some like post like lab work and some like they're doing testing and
That's
evaluation
true.
as they
yeah.
take it apart.
And they're going to be writing reports and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are, and
Yeah.
then they, a lot of times be like, "Oh, well, get me medical records." So then I get the medical records for them, send them over. They have to review all that. Then they wait on the toxicology to come back, and then say, "Okay, well, yep, this is going to be an overdose death," or "Oh, well, this is because you had a 80% blockage in your heart." So
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot. There's got to be a lot of expertise that goes into that too, because you got to know what you're looking for, right?
yeah, they're all very, very, very smart people. I always am learning from them, just because things change.
So your office is then interfacing with the hospital system, local doctors' offices, whatever, gathering medical records
Correct.
consistently as well.
Correct. Yeah.
That's a lot of administrative work.
It is
20
it
or 30
is.
hours a week is all that is? I guess it's only three,
It
maybe
just
3
de-
cases a week, but it
It
depends.
just depends.
How long does the average
So-
investigation take from the time that you get the call on it to the time that you're done with the case?
It
I know it depends some, but like
it
an
does.
average.
You know, I would say a couple hours on an investigation and a couple hours for autopsy. You know, unless it's a criminal. If it's a criminal case, obviously a lot longer. You know, so
Criminals only a couple times a year, though.
yeah.
Theoretically. So what else do we need
Hopefully,
to know
anyway.
about the officer that we not covered? Because we're not good at interviewing coroners. I think we might have had Stacy on, but it was a very abbreviated one 4 years ago
Okay.
in the COVID world. So what else are we not asking about the office that the public should know?
Well, I think you guys have did a real good job. I looked at the notes
You have arrest
that
powers.
you sent me. Do not.
He can only arrest one guy.
The only person, believe it or not, that the coroner can arrest and has to have a court order signed by a judge would be the sheriff.
Which happened in Clark County this year.
It has,
Oh,
and
yeah,
it
yeah,
happened
yeah,
in
yeah, that's true.
Hancock County several years ago too,
Oh.
and that dates back to some 12th century history from England, where the king needed somebody to keep they were thought that the sheriffs were taking taxes, and so they created
some
the
checks and
coroner,
balances.
and yeah. So
This was the sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood times.
yeah, long time ago, and it stayed. You know, we talked a little bit before the show about the job. You know, there's not a lot of it's a lot of statute driven stuff. You know, so I don't get to make a lot of decisions such as other elected officials. So some states don't have elected coroners. You know, they use like a medical examiner system or something that's appointed. So
Do you feel like your office is being hindered by your budget right now?
no, I mean I like
You're the
I
first
would
department
like
head to come through and say, I have enough money.
I like to think. I mean, they have to pay the bill.
Right.
That's just it. So I feel like being proactive with the county council. You know, they understand that, and so we try to. I mean, I just try to get by with what I can. You know, and like I said, the state being able to to use the state lab for toxicology, or the state. It's not a state lab. They have the contract, state contract. We'll say that saves the county a lot too.
Is that's a new change that was made?
No, I'm not sure how many years that's been that, and they usually bid that I think every year. So it's been Access Labs and out of Indianapolis actually. So
And then you talked about the interfacing with the county council. I assume the council still has like a member that's supposed to be the liaison to your office.
we do. Right now it's Betsy Mills is the coroner's liaison. So.
How was your first autopsy that you witnessed?
Well, I had witnessed some from an EMS standpoint, you know, a
Yeah.
lot of training and stuff.
Oh, really?
So I'd actually sit in on autopsies just for knowledge. You know, you can learn a lot of anatomy seeing it in real life versus reading it or seeing it in a book. And a lot of new, especially now, you know, paramedics, they go to cadaver labs, you know, so that's kind of like an autopsy. You know, they go in and these people give their body to science. I've had a couple of those cases where they have a card in their wallet that says, my body is to go to science, and they've got all the details worked out. You call a phone number and they say, okay, we're on our way. And they come in and get these folks. And a lot of times their family knows that too, that's where their bodies go to. They don't go to a traditional funeral home. They go to a school of medicine.
It's very
So,
interesting.
In my day job, before I was a rebar salesman, I was a rebar detailer. And one of the first projects I detailed was the University of Tennessee necropsy
where you
lab.
clean the rebar. Really
That's what I was
Oh,
going to say too.
really?
I just picture him just sitting there, just
Just
like
polishing
with
it.
his little rag, just polishing on the rebar, just so that concrete looks-
Ceramic coating.
yeah, just like,
It's a rebar detailer takes an engineer's idea, the structural plans, and turns it into something you can actually install from. So you're making a placing drawing.
I was right there with you, Dakota. I just
Yeah.
pictured him just walking around, just like I'm buffing my rebar,
Yeah, just-
boss. I'm buffing it.
Just running it through the wheelabrator. Yeah, that's the. Anyway, That was necropsy lab is one of the first things I detailed back in the day. Very interesting.
What's the necropsy lab?
Dead people.
I gathered that, but like, what are they doing there?
I think it's the cadavers.
What are they doing with all them bodies?
It's a little
Probably that.
suspicious. Yeah, I think it's exactly what he was talking about. It'd be the facility where they learn.
So okay,
So what? Tell us about the motivations. You're 2 years in. You got into this. Stacy recruited you, I assume, and you got into this. And Stacy talked about empathy for families, and when he got into this race, or when he wanted to get in. Now, you're signing up for a full 4-year term again.
I am.
And by the way, this is a contested election. Bill Palmer was invited, who wasn't able to make it tonight. So we do have 2 candidates for coroner. Tell us about hey, I want to do 4 more years of this, and maybe the motivation to say, yes, this is what I want to do.
I, with the overdose deaths, that's a big thing to me. I know I've mentioned it 3 or 4 times tonight. Being able to be more active in the community, try to help, with resources for these folks, even come out of recovery. I've had some conversation with some people, with some addicts, and that's their biggest voice to me personally as the coroner is resources, especially after they get out of rehab. Families is a big part of this. They're dealing with the loss of a loved one, so that's a big deal. You want to make sure you care for them properly and answer all their questions. And I've been in public safety all my life, been taking care of people all my life. And so this is a different side of taking care of people. You're taking care of the deceased and then their families. So
okay.
I have a quick question on the overdose side. You talked about how a lot of times somebody thinks they're getting one product and all of a sudden it's been cut with fentanyl or there's something else in there. Obviously, we're not advocating for the use of any of these drugs, but are there things that folks can do, tests or anything to know or so that they could be more careful, so that they don't, and maybe that's part of the awareness you're trying to bring from the coroner's office?
Right, there's fentanyl and xylazine test strips available. I know that Henry County Health Department does have that. They have a robust and are expanding their harm reduction program, which includes some of that stuff. So
Like
there
the
is
needle
resources
exchanges and stuff. That's what they got there.
There is resources out, for that, and these people can reach out, anonymously, to the health department and say, hey, we need that. They can reach out to me. My office will facilitate anything we can to make people safer.
You'd rather do
in
that
Henry
than to
County.
have them as a case.
Absolutely.
So as the coroner, do you have just any general life advice, things to stay away from?
The mini marathon.
For me, the mini marathon, absolutely. I don't want no part of that.
I mean, like 4-wheelers, motorcycles, things that
Wear your
jump
helmet.
out at you. Like
wear your helmet, wear your
would
seatbelt.
never do that.
Right, just follow all safety precautions. Wear your seatbelt. Seatbelts do save lives. Wear a helmet. Helmets do save lives.
That helmet saved my father's life.
Manufacturer's recommendation.
Where the hell is the
It's
deer?
back there. It's behind Dale Jr. or
There's
Senior.
There's a deer over there that hit my father.
Oh, really?
Collapsed his lung, gave him a concussion. He spent 8 days in Methodist,
Okay.
but he made it through because he had his helmet
Yep.
on a motorcycle.
So that's some good advice on the trauma side is wear your helmet, wear your seatbelt.
This is a question that might even cater more to the EMS side of what you do, but like with the drugs, you just never know what you're dealing with. Has that made the EMS side like more and more difficult? Like when you walk into a situation of what they might encounter and like dangers of the job?
Is it kinda-
Yeah, I would say so, because when I started back 25 years ago, Narcan wasn't a thing. I mean, we went to school, I went to paramedic school back in 2007, and we learned Narcan. We were taught Narcan. You had to have a license to give Narcan, and now you can come see me and I'll give you free Narcan.
You can pick it up in a rest area.
You can buy it at You can pick it up at the rest area. You can buy it at the Walgreens or the grocery store, and give it. So it's just the ever changing drug world, and
Narcan is a reversal drug, essentially, right?
it is. It's an antidote.
And is it just given just subcutaneous, like just jab it in intramuscular? How is it?
It's a nasal spray.
Actually, it's a nasal spray. It comes in multiple forms. You could give it intramuscular, or you could give it IV. On a lot of EMS agencies carry both IV and intranasal. What you buy, get handed out from health departments or buy at the store is the intranasal. You put it in the nose, and it's just a small amount of liquid that comes out. But the big thing to remember with Narcan is if their heart isn't beating, that's not gonna work either.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure and do CPR, or
As I said,
call 911 right away if you face this.
procedure of care is like attach a defibrillator first and then administer Narcan if it picks up a heartbeat, or if you can feel a heartbeat, then Narcan, or CPR first and then Narcan, right?
CPR is the big thing. Is CPR. Even if you don't, obviously you don't want to do mouth to mouth. That's not taught and not the standard anymore.
And breathing in people's mouths.
But even if you do chest compressions, they teach hands only CPR, and that circulates the blood and oxygenates the brain.
Very good.
So
I think we're at the point in the show where we need to do final thoughts, Mr. Zach. What do you got for us?
Oh man, it's Wednesday. I'm discombobulated.
We're here a day early. You get your
I know.
Thursday night off. That's the good news.
I almost took my
You can-
trash toters down tonight.
You can thank Todd
Yeah.
Hyde. We got Thursday night off.
I don't know. Like I said, good luck to Bowman. Good luck to anybody else I know that's doing it. I know a couple other people that are doing it. I haven't really done a roll call to see how many people I know doing it. I'm glad it's May. Like I said, flags out, 500s this month. Got that to look forward to. Broad Street Cruise on Saturday. So if you want to come see the damage I do to myself, I'm always up on Broad for the Broad Street Cruise after the mini, kind of hobbling around. And usually I'm walking okay, but if I stand for too long or sit for too long, then you get to see the suffering.
We roll into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, and I spent. It was hot last Sunday. Derek was talking about running. I spent like 2.5 hours getting the hitch dialed in on my camper out by the old Baker Pool because it was a nice big flat parking lot. And man, I got like a sunburn that day doing that. So everybody stay cool. I know it's gonna be so hot tomorrow, but yeah, thanks for Brian coming in. It's like if coroner's office is an odd one. You don't want to like Dakota kind of alluded to. You don't want to see him pull up. Like you see the coroner's truck. I mean, you're like, this is not good. Now, I did think plot twist if you had to arrest the sheriff or anybody arrest the sheriff. If the coroner pulls up to the sheriff's house and everyone's like, oh my gosh, then walks out with the sheriff still alive. You're like, plot twist that you actually get to walk out with somebody alive. That's the only perk of that gig, I guess. But yeah, that's one of those jobs, and it's kind of we got the same thing with the judges where like we don't really know what goes on in some offices and how those work, and it's interesting to figure out like more about what they're doing and how things work and
What you get for your $140,000 a year.
yeah. Well, and we were aware a couple years ago of what the deputy rate was because the deputies were getting called all the time. Yeah, that rate seems like kind of insane. It's like, hey, $130. That's like substitute teacher pay, but not even that's better.
Is
than
that standard, Brian? Like, does that match up with what Wayne County's doing or Shelby County or Rush?
no,
Or
we're,
is it what
we're
we
a little
do?
low. I did last year. I was able to budget more for deputy coroners because if you take into the coroner salary just over $18,000, it's $18,300 ish, and then I have $5,000 on my deputy coroner line, so that's $24,000
For labor.
for 24 hours, 7 days a week coverage to deal with deceased folks in Henry County.
We
It's not a lot
dropped
of money.
$50,000 into emergency preparedness for the eclipse.
Yeah.
And you have $24,000 for 24/7 coverage.
for like
Right.
6 people's cousins to come to town. Like for the, I don't know what it was. I mean, it was
775,000 people.
Yeah, right. Now I will vouch. Summit Lake, they were busy up there.
Summit was packed.
I was up
Oh,
there.
y'all-
They had no problems. It was
yeah. I'll say
it was
this though:
neat.
Summit's now, at least the campground side, is busy every weekend.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. that was, it was interesting job, and one of those ones you kind of hopefully I don't ever have to deal with you professionally at some point, but like I'm glad you're there, because just to notifying the next of kin is a job that nobody really wants to do, and we're glad somebody's out there doing it and
Yeah,
is
you can
thoughtful
pay
about
me
it.
$18,000
Yeah,
to do
that's-
that part of it.
Yeah,
That would
it's a
be
rough
awful.
gig. Other than that,
All right, Brian, I hear you're going door to door.
I did. I met Dakota earlier today. I was in a neighborhood
What
here
were
in
the
the city.
chances? What were the chances?
I'm trying to just go to door, get myself out there and talk to people. So
If
May
folks,
7th is coming up.
if folks have more questions, how do they learn more, reach out, etc.?
There, I can publish my personal cell phone number. I'd be glad to talk to anybody. I've got an email address. I don't know if you guys.
Sure, give out whatever you want to.
You can reach me at Brian Clark for Coroner. Nope, I don't think that's right. Let's just use bclark89 season cat 7 at gmail.com. That's my personal email address. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Or I've got a Facebook page, Brian Clark for Enter County Coroner.
And
Search that
Your
up.
campaign manager is skirting labor laws, I noticed.
She is. She's my 7-year-old daughter. She does a great job. 7 going on 17. I'll have to let her watch this tonight after we get done here.
How many pancake breakfasts has she scheduled you for?
A bunch. That is one thing that I've learned on the political side of this is there's lots of pancake breakfasts, lots more fundraisers than I even knew about. I know that I have at least 2 on Saturday. The one here for the Optimist. Is it Optimist or Kiwanis? Over at the Methodist Church, and then there's another one in Louisville. So I'm
you're not
going to
running
both
me,
of
but you're
those.
carb loading. Sounds like you're carb loading.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You're going to have to be careful. They're going to try to make you party chairman or a precinct committeeman or something. They will give you more jobs than you want.
So, but no, I appreciate you guys coming on Wednesday night because Thursday night's a Republican Club meeting. So, you guys catered to me, and I do appreciate that. So,
We're glad to have you here.
We appreciate you coming on. Happier side. What's
those families, especially the ones that are out of town, when you have to talk to those folks, they're upset because their loved one is deceased in our county. That could be 30 miles from home. That could be 1,500 miles from home. Helping any family is the best part of the job. But being able to facilitate, getting their belongings to them or their vehicle, things like that. One case specifically last year that we had, was 2 young girls. Their father lived here. I say young, they were in their 20s. They were adults, but they had no clue. Their mom was trying to help them, so we were able to, store the car and they were worried about how long. And I said, it's in a county parking lot. It's fine, and just being able to help.
makes sense. Good luck this weekend, Zach.
Thanks, we'll need it.
I wanted to give a shout out to Wyland's Flowers and Ink and Ale Brew House. We appreciate them very much for sponsoring the candidate series. I think this is the last episode of the candidate series.
This is mercifully, I'm so happy to meet you, Brian, and have you here. But mercifully, this is the final candidate series episode of 2024 for the primary season. It's been fantastic having everybody come through, and we've had really good participation this year. Only a couple candidates were unable to connect with us, so it's been very good. We've played, we've jumped around the calendar a lot to make it work, and that's going to continue again next week as well, because we are doing I don't think the first time we're announcing this on the show, Tuesday night episode, election night return. So we're going to be here as the results come in, depending upon how quickly they get things counted. I think we've had some late nights before, Dakota. It all comes at once. Hopefully, in the 7 o'clock hour when we jump on, we get the results and we can pass that on to folks. But we will do our
With it being a primary, it should be a little bit quicker. Should be.
Mark that down.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna be here at midnight, and you're gonna be screaming.
I won't be here at midnight.
I won't be here.
We will do our very best. But we are moving the show to Tuesday of next week because it's May, and Zach and I don't live in Henry County.
You're going to show whatever day Jeremiah and I happen to be in Newcastle.
To make it work. So we're going to have, I think we have Tuesday next week, Thursday the following week, and then our special race night edition is going to be on Tuesday the 21st, I believe. So we are bouncing around a little bit. Zach is still trying to talk to NBC to schedule our, our following show.
Like, I'm trying to get friend of the show, Jeff Watterson, who was able much easier to just come on the show before. But now I contacted Jeff, and Jeff's like, for that question, you need to speak to my PR guy. And he directed me to a guy at NBC. Because if people don't know, Jess posted, Jeff was on a show, and man, I should know the name of the show. But it's like Survive. It's on USA.
It's the Amazing Race on steroids.
Yeah, so Jeff went to New Zealand, and he's on like Survive New Zealand. He and Corey Woltering, who is another ultra guy, who's a professional ultra marathon runner, and so that show is coming up. He's filmed it and everything, and so we're trying to get him on before. We won't be able to talk about what happened on the show, but it might be interesting. He's got some interesting stories about the application process and some of the stuff that went into that. And the shenanigans of how you end up being on a TV show. And then we'll probably have to have him back on later to talk about some of the stuff he encountered when he was there.
And in other reality TV news, 100 Days to Indy is back on the CW.
Yeah, I haven't got a chance to watch it.
I think
yet.
15,000 people watched it live. The ratings came out. It was like a .13 on CW. Not a good rating, but it was a very good show. So it'll catch you. It's on the season 1's on Netflix now, and there's 6 episodes. You can watch that and then roll right into the new one.
But but like we don't get CW on YouTube TV, do we?
We do not. We have to use the app.
Yeah,
we have the CW app.
That's why I haven't got a chance to catch it yet. But yeah, I did get the IndyCar race to watch. Funniest thing ever in the IndyCar race: a mannequin dropped onto the edge of the track and got its hand taken off by a race car.
True.
This mannequin's been hanging up there for like a decade. And for people that know Barber Motorsports Park, the owner is a very interesting guy, and it's a private track, private museum with the largest collection of motorcycles in the world. And he's eccentric. He has all these weird statues and stuff all over the track. Like there's a spider and a bunch of other stuff. And he had a mannequin hanging from a pedestrian bridge.
There's a video for you boys.
And of all the times to fall, it fell during the IndyCar race. Its like dress fell down when it did.
A lot of vibrations.
And it got, and then a race car comes by, takes the hand off of it, and then luckily smart people got to the media center, and Scott McLaughlin, who I guess only sat for a moment, but the picture makes it look like he was just chilling there, sat down and took a picture with the mannequin. His name was Georgina. Back from
They had the modifieds out.
Oh, yeah.
Those were that was the big.
I saw the
show.
I saw the cars headed over there when I was coming back from a track meet.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's very clean there. It's very nice. But
they have done an insane amount of work.
$10
to clean that area
and
up.
Jackson got him free. It was like, and then we bought a thing of popcorn. Jackson got a popsicle. All in for the entire evening. We had $25 into it.
Final thing I want to leave you with today. There's been an ad running in the Courier Times for a week now. It says, "Look." He leaves his number. Red ad has been running in the Courier Times all week long. And I would love to know how things have worked out for Harold and if he's gotten a phone call.
Missed connections.
But he took out an ad, and it was in the paper all week last week, to the point where my wonderful bride saw a red Chrysler 300C.
Oh, now she's looking for Harold.
She's looking for Harold, and there was I don't know if this is Harold or not, but there was an older gentleman driving, and he had a lady friend. So maybe it all worked out. I don't know.
Wow, maybe it did.
Maybe it already worked out.
He just
But
pre-bought
old,
the ads.
old
so
Harold
it's
shot a
running.
shot, and I thought we could recognize that. Plus, the Courier Times made some money too.
Good for Travis. He got like an extra coffee based on that.
There you go. All right. With that, we thank you guys very much for being a part of the show. Brian, thank you for running and giving us something to vote for. Candidates running is. I wish that everybody in your race was here tonight, but the fact that you're running and that you have competition means that we're getting a better product for Henry County, and I'm excited that you're there. So with that.